The poor groom they're about to humiliate could freeze half the money in this room with one email. A crystal flute explodes on marble as Chief Bio taps the mic. Lagos has standards, he smiles. Laughter skims the chandeliers. 700 phones rise. Within 90 days, the convoys and barges that feed their fortunes will sit still, and the only thing moving will be apologies. If stories where pride meets its mirrors speak to you, stay. This begins at Eko Hotel. It does not end here. African Karma Stories. Full as lens finds the groom's scuffed boots. Tinny's smile falters. The next toast is already loading like a bullet. The ballroom at Eko Hotel glows like a promise you can touch. Gold uplights, a band wrapped in asaoke, talking drums answering saxophone. Waiters glide through the scent of fried plantain and chilled champagne. The Adingi crest shines on an LED wall. Every detail says pedigree and power. Nadu stands near the back, close to the service doors where staff move with quiet speed. His suit is simple, pressed, not designer. His watch ticks without announcing itself. He thanks a waiter by name and steps aside so a tray won't wobble. People notice the shoes first. Always the shoes. Chief Bio clears his throat again, owning the silence the way men of a certain era were taught to. Tonight, we celebrate my daughter, Teniola, and, he lets the words trail, the room leaning in. Her choices. Laughter ripples from table 1, where Fola angles his phone to catch both the stage and the man everyone is whispering about. Omo, see budget groom, someone murmurs, just loud enough to travel. Tinny's fingers tightened around her clutch. She has done this choreography before. Smile, nod, redirect. But tonight, the smile doesn't fit. It slips each time her eyes find Nadu's face, steady and unreadable, as if he has practiced surviving moments like this. On the stage, Chief Bio drips charm. Lagos is a city of taste, standards. We dress our moments. A glance at Nadu's lapel, the absence of a brand, and the crowd knows where this is going. The band leader looks down. Even the drums grow careful. A waiter leans toward Nadu. Sir, do you need anything? Nadu shakes his head and whispers, You're doing well. Thank you. The man nods, surprised by the softness, then slips away. Tinny steps forward. Daddy, can I speak? The microphone does not move. Bio holds it like a scepter. After, my dear. He lifts his glass again. To the Adinyi name. The phones catch the angle. Chief powerful, groom modest, bride suspended between. One frame to feed 1,000 comments. Outside, the lagoon breathes against the seawall. Inside, the air turns thin. Fola's caption types itself. When love forgets budget. Someone behind Nadu chuckles, then coughs when he turns and meets a calm gaze that refuses to bite. Nado's aunt, Ngem, stands near the entrance, head tie simple, eyes clear. She blends with the caterers until you see the way security nods to her with respect they rarely give guests. She watches Bio with the patience of a long river. Another glass taps. The lights shift. A spotlight grazes Nadu's face for a second, then slides away like an apology it cannot hold. Tinny inhales. Enough. Her voice rides the drumbeat. Heads turn. Chief smiles wider, the kind of smile that warns. We will keep it light, he says. We are among friends. Nadu does not move. He is the still thing in a noisy room. He checks his phone once, no notifications on the surface. Beneath, schedules tick, permits renew. A barge captain sends a 3-word update. Tide on time. You don't need to know the mechanics tonight. You only need to see what pride does when it forgets how Lagos actually works. A brief pause, then the MC tries to rescue the evening with a joke about Jollof diplomacy. Laughter returns, brittle around the edges. The band launches a high-life classic, Couple Sway. The tension doesn't leave, it just learns to dance. Let's hold the picture for a second. This is where the story forks. On one path, the room gets its laugh, the man becomes a meme, and by morning the city moves on. On the other path, the laugh boomerangs, and the city learns what quiet leverage looks like. We are standing at Eko Hotel, under a ceiling of light, watching a father test the weight of his voice, a bride test the strength of her spine, and a groom test the patience of his restraint. Lagos remembers scenes like this. It also remembers who cleaned up after. Tinny touches Nadu's arm as she passes him on her way to the restroom. It is slight, private. "I'm here," she breathes. He nods. "I know." The microphone hangs, waiting. Tenny reaches for the microphone before the laugh finishes traveling. Chief Bayo's hand is already there. He smiles at the room and keeps it. The band swells to cover the moment, but silence wins. "Daddy," she says, gentle, "please let me thank our guests first." A breath moves through 100 chairs. Chief tilts the mic toward her, then back to himself. "In a moment," he says, "family first." At table 1, Fola stands. "Ah, allow me." He raises a flute and his phone together. The camera stays on the groom. "To love," he says, "that stretches a budget and a heart." The punchline lands where he aimed it. Laughter clicks against glass. Tenny's cheeks heat, then cool. She looks at Nadu. He is calm, hands folded, eyes soft. He nods once as if to say, "Choose grace." She inhales. "Please," she says, stepping forward without the mic. Her voice finds the room anyway. "Thank you all for celebrating with us. The best dressed thing here tonight is kindness." A beat. Let's remember it. It's a small line. It is also a blade. A few heads dip, a few smiles stiffen. Chief keeps smiling. Fola's story posts itself, captioned, "Kindness has no designer." Tags stack. A bridesmaid laughs and then bites her lip. Someone at table 9 whispers, "She's sweet, but this pairing no balance." Another answers, "He's not our level." The DJ drops the volume. The MC slides in, oil on water. Before the main course, a quick toast from our radiant cousin. He thinks he's saving them. He isn't. Tenny's phone trembles in her clutch. Messages bloom. "Are you okay? Is he really? Don't let them do this." She wants to vanish. She wants to stand on the table. She wants the night to end. She wants it to earn her. Nkem watches from the doors, arms folded, expression neutral. A waiter brushing past murmurs to Madame, "You try," to Tenny, as if passing a secret. Tenny nods, grateful for the smallest allegiance. Fola keeps going. "Even in Lagos, love can be affordable." He grins at the wrong people grin back. Nadu moves to Tenny's side, not touching, simply close enough to share air. "Water?" he asks. She exhales. "Yes, please." He takes a glass from a tray and hands it to her like a vow. Across the room, phones bloom like little moons. Comments stack in real time. Budget Groom. Standards matter. Leave them, Jade. One sincere.
That man greeted my mom's cleaner by name. Tenny turns to the crowd. I chose a man who makes rooms kinder, she says, clear, steady. I hope tonight we do the same. The line floats over linen and silver. It doesn't fix the night. It plants a flag. The band leans into a high life classic, feet shuffle, conversations restart, but lower. The storm does not pass. It waits. A brief breath to hold where we are. The reception at Eko Hotel should have been easy. Music, food, family pride. Instead, whispers have turned into a breeze that lifts napkins and judgment. A cousin found jokes. A father hid behind standards. Phones have started a second party online where strangers vote on love. Tenny is choosing small courage over smooth silence. Nadu is choosing patience that looks like weakness until it doesn't. The staff notice the tiny kindnesses. The guests notice the labels. Nights like this decide which memory Lagos keeps, the laugh or the lesson. Tenny taps her glass, a gentle ring. To everyone who showed up for love tonight, she says, thank you. She looks at Nadu. We'll be fine. At the edge of the room, Kwemi Adeyemi's producer slides through a side door, badge tucked, eyes scanning the LED wall for angles. Fola's clip has reached a desk that loves a sharper story, but camera's red tally light hasn't turned on yet. It will. And when it does, the night will stop pretending to be private.
Beneath the chandeliers, pride was loud. In the back seat to Yaba, truth buckles in and keeps its voice low. Nedu steps out of Eko Hotel into the soft wind off the lagoon. The night smells like salt, diesel, and hibiscus from the flower beds. A taxi line glows with brake lights. He waves off a valet who tries to take a ticket that doesn't exist. No car, Nedu says, gentle. He orders a ride and waits under the portico where the drummers smoke and the waiters laugh softly in Yoruba, trading notes about the night. The driver rolls up in a clean, tired Corolla. Yaba, he asks. Yaba, Nedu answers. They merge onto Azumba, glide past Civic Center glass and the dark shoulder of Echo Atlantic. On the radio, a preacher whispers about forgiveness between short bursts of Afrobeats. Streetlights stutter over the windshield. Nedu's phone vibrates once. A message from Aunt Nkem. Are you safe? He replies, yes, home soon. Victoria Island falls away. Falomo Bridge over water like black glass. Onikoyi lights flicker and die. A generator coughs, then starts again. In the rear view, the driver studies his passenger. You from that big party? Nedu smiles without showing teeth. Passing through. They hit Third Mainland. The bridge hums. Wooden boats bob in the darkness below like commas in a long sentence. The driver points at the water. See tide? It is right tonight. Ned's mouth curves. It is. He checks another message, just 3 words from a barge captain. Tide on time. At Adekule, the city changes gear. Keke horns chirp. A hawker taps the window at a light with gala bread and bottled water. The driver shakes his head. Nedu buys both and hands the water back to the driver. For you. The driver nods, startled. God bless you. He doesn't notice the way Nedu counts the change without looking. Yaba's night is alive. Suya smoke under a yellow bulb, sandals scuffing pavement, a generator's steady growl. The ride stops near a narrow building with flaking paint over a mama poots that sells rice at noon and silence at midnight. Nedu climbs the stairs 2 at a time. On the landing, a neighbor's child sleeps on a mat in a spill of corridor light. He lifts the girl gently, places her inside the doorway, and shuts it with care. Aunt Nkem's door is open. A single bulb warms a small kitchen. Kettles singing, Lipton tea bags lined up like soldiers, enamel mugs chipped at the rim. Nkem ties her wrapper tighter and looks Nedu over head to toe without a word.
I am fine. She pours tea. I didn't ask if you are fine, she said. I asked your spirit. Is it fine? He sits. It is learning. They drink in quiet. The small window shows a slice of sky and a taller building pretending to be important. On a shelf sits a black notebook, edges softened by years. The cover says Yard in blue pen, faded to gray. Next to it, a photograph in a cheap frame. A much younger Nedu in a life jacket, arm around a barge hand with a gap-toothed grin. Behind them, a pile of containers, a glint of crane steel, a streak of sunset. Your father would have laughed at that room, Nkem said. Not at them, at the noise. Nedu nods. He would have told me to eat before speaking. She smiles. Yes, hunger makes pride louder. She tops up his cup. The man with the microphone, he has never waited for the tide. He thinks water answers to suits. Nedu leans back. Tenny tried. I saw. A brave girl at a bad moment. Courage is quiet when cameras are loud. She reaches for the black notebook and places it in front of him. Open it. Inside are rows of dates, clipped receipts, small maps drawn in pencil, names of plots near the free trade zone when the bush was still bush, yard leases signed with 2 witnesses and a rubber stamp that left blue ink on thumbs, phone numbers of men who can move 30 tons without a meeting, notes about storms, fuel shortages, a spare engine that saved a contract. It is a different kind of chandelier, one you build with patience and proof. Nedu turns a page. A clipped newspaper photo shows a ribbon at leggy deep-sea port, cranes like tall birds behind a line of suits. Nkem taps it. When they cut that ribbon, the price of every mistake doubled. Her phone buzzes. She answers on speaker. Musa. Alhaji Musa's voice comes through like gravel, rolled smooth by years. You home? We are, Nkem says. I watched a video, Musa says. The chief is a small man with a loud room. Nedru says nothing. Musa continues. There will be calls tomorrow. They will want you to answer with noise. Don't. The river does not argue with insults. It just decides who gets across. Nkem looks at Nedu. We hold our line. Musa grunts approval. Your captain messaged me. Tied on time. I saw, Nedu says. Good, Musa replies. Sleep. Lagos will be awake too early. They hang up. The kettle goes again, because comfort comes in small refills. Nkem moves to the sink, rinses 2 plates that do not need rinsing. Do you know why I never bought those shiny cups from the island? She asks. Nedu smiles. Because tea tastes the same in any cup. She says, amused. No, because shiny cups make some visitors forget to greet the person who washed them. And I always need to know who can greet. Reflection settles like the tea leaves at the bottom of a mug. If you have ever been measured by your shoes, your dress, your watch, you know this room. If you have ever walked out of a bright hall with the wrong kind of attention on your back, you know this right home. What saves you in the morning is not a clapback post or a perfect speech. It is the work you did when nobody watched. It is the list of names in a black book. It is the habit of greeting the person who opened the door. Let's mark where we stand. A wedding night in Victoria Island turned into a performance about status. The joke traveled faster than the truth. Nedu left without anger, carrying the same quiet that keeps engines running and schedules honest. In Yaba, the city's other face, smaller rooms, hotter tea, harder chairs, reminds us where real stability lives. Otenkem's notebook holds years of patient choices, early leases near a port that changed everything, relationships that survived fuel shortages and flooded roads, contracts born at the water's edge rather than on the stage. A call from Musa proves the circle is strong and awake. All of this sits underneath the simple line from a captain, tied on time. The night has its noise. The morning will have its decisions. Nkem closes the notebook and taps it once, a gentle gavel. Tomorrow, someone will try to make your life a headline. Let them. We will keep making it a ledger. Nedu nods. He stands, thanks her, and takes the stairs down to the street where the air smells like pepper and rain waiting to happen. A single message pings on Chief Bio's phone in Ikoyi at that same hour from a producer whose red tally light turns careers into cement. He smiles in the dark and types, "I will come." He has no idea which doors that light will close.
Morning breaks over Lagos like a headline. The red tally light blinks on in the studio cooled to perfection. Kemi Adeyemi smiles into the lens, sleeves rolled, voice steady. Tonight's conversation is about standards, love, and the Lagos we want. Chief Bayo is already smiling, powdered, mic'd, cufflinks catching the light. He sits the way men sit when they expect applause. Across the table, the empty chair meant for Tenny is a choice. She stayed home. Fola waits in the green room, phone up, eager to feed the internet before the show even airs. Kemi plays the clip. The ballroom, the toast, the laugh, the groom's quiet face. The room breathes. "Chief," she says, "did you shame your daughter's partner on her wedding night?" He doesn't flinch. "What you call shame, I call guidance," he says, voice smooth. "Lagos has standards. Marriage is not only romance, it is alignment. Families must match. Levels matter." "Levels," Kemi repeats, tasting the word. "Did his shoes break your family's values?" A smile that is not a smile. He says, "Presentation tells you everything. How a man respects a moment tells you how he will respect your daughter." "Or your wallet?" Kemi's question lands softly, then stays. The control room holds its breath. The camera likes her when she's gentle and precise. Chief leans forward. "Let us be honest. There are schemers in this city. Men who dress down, pretend modesty, and arrive to eat where they did not plant. I have daughters. I will protect them." On a split screen, the wedding clip loops. Online comments crawl below. Some clap, some wince. A woman in Surulere pauses her sewing and watches. Dockwalkers at mile 2 glance at a TV by a kiosk and shake their heads. In a VI boardroom, a leader mutes the sound and reads the captions with narrowed eyes. Kemi's tone stays warm. She says, "Protecting family is noble. Publicly belittling a guest, your guest, what did that protect?" Chief shrugs with elegance. "We are public people. We host public occasions. If a man cannot bear small assessments in a hall, how will he bear pressure outside it? Lagos is not gentle." In Ikoyi, Funke sits on the edge of a sofa, remote in hand, heart in her throat. Tenny watches from her own couch, blanket around her knees, phone face down. In Yaba, Neru rinses a cup and sets it to dry. The TV hums in the background. Inkem listens with her arms folded. Kemi does not look away. She says, "There is another question. When we clap for humiliation, what city are we building?" She doesn't point at anyone. She points at all of us. The studio goes quiet enough to hear the air conditioning sigh. Chief laughs softly. "You want me to apologize on national television?" "I want clarity," Kemi says. "Would you say on this seat that you judged a man's worth by the cost of his suit? Yes or no?" By his choices, and cheap shoes are a choice. There it is, a quote that will travel. Fola is already typing it onto a clip with loud captions. The green room smells like coffee and victory. Kemi breathes. "For those watching," she says, eyes to camera, "you know this feeling. You have been sized by your car, your street, your voice, or you have done the sizing. Both leave a mark." She turns back to Chief. "You said levels matter. Beyond labels, what are your levels? Kindness, work, integrity, or only packaging?" Chief's smile thins.
We are not naive here, he answers. Packaging is the first respect you give to a room. And the last? He doesn't answer. She lets the silence make the point. The producer counts down to a break. 3, 2, the theme music blooms. The red light dies. On the other side of the glass, phones explode. Clips, quotes, outrage, agreement. The city has taken its sides. A barber in Igeje says, standards are good. A teacher in Yaba says, respect is better. A logistics manager texts a partner, seeing this? The partner replies, noted. Let's catch our breath, because clarity matters. Last night, a hall in Victoria Island turned into a test of performance over character. The bride found courage and paid for it with whispers. The groom left quietly, choosing dignity over noise. A notebook in Yaba reminded us that real security is built in small, patient lines, not LED walls. Now, in bright studio light, the father doubles down. He calls it guidance. He calls it levels. And yet, beyond the talk, Lagos is watching with its other eye, the eye that judges how you treat those with less power. Moments like this don't just trend. They build or break trust. In this city, trust is currency. Back from break, Kemi lowers her voice. Chief, one final thought, she says. If the man you dismissed turned out to be exactly the kind of builder this city needs, quiet, consistent, respectful, what would you say? He laughs. If. We deal with facts, my dear. Facts change rooms, Kemi says. Rooms change facts. The show ends. Applause that isn't sure if it should be applause. The credits roll. The camera finds Kemi's eyes for a second too long. She looks tired and proud at the same time. In the corridor, Fola pounces. Phone in Chief's face. He grins. Uncle, you killed it. We go viral. Send the link, Chief says. He looks 10 feet tall and 1 inch off balance. Outside, a driver opens a door. The evening smells like rain. In Ikoyi, Funke sits very still. The house is too quiet. She picks up her husband's other phone from the marble console to put it on charge. It lights up. The name on the screen freezes her hand halfway to the cable. She calls out, voice thin, Bail? He is still in the corridor, shaking a producer's hand. His phone vibrates too. Same name, same timing. He stops smiling. He doesn't pick up yet. He reads the name again. Then he does what he has not done all day. He hesitates. The first crack doesn't sound like thunder. It arrives as a subject line. R.E. Crescent Villas. Immediate pause. Pending reputation review. Chief Bayo reads it twice in his Ikoyi office, then a third time as if the words will rearrange. The sender is Harborview Developments, the partner he has courted for 18 months for a Banana Island project that would reshape his portfolio and his dinner table stories. He looks up. The room is perfectly set. Leather, glass, art that says success without whispering how it was paid for. Ife, he calls. His assistant steps in, tablet ready. Schedule a call. Now. They answer before she can dial. Chief, good afternoon, the voice says, smooth and firm. After last night's broadcast, our board convened. We respect your achievements. We also have a clause about public conduct that could expose partners to reputational harm. We're pausing the JV until further notice. Chief smiles into the phone the way people smile at oncoming rain. Reputational harm over television chatter? Not chatter. Character. We will review in 30 days. Deliveries and deposits are safe, but no new capital will be released. The line goes quiet. Then, politely, it goes dead. He lowers the phone like it's heavier than it was 5 minutes ago. Ife? He says again, softer. Gets me Landre at Harborview and call the bank. I want assurances. On Victoria Island, a second decision lands. A beverage brand planning to sponsor Chief's charity table at the season's biggest gala sends a message. With respect, we are stepping back this year. Our customers care how we pick our partners. We will revisit next season. The company adds a line that sounds like a smile and feels like a door closing. Funke reads over his shoulder. It will pass, she says, willing confidence into the room. Her hand is on his arm. He brushes it off and hits call again. Voicemail. He tries a fixer who never sleeps. This afternoon, the fixer is in transit. Across the lagoon in Yaba, Nedu's kettle sings. He is on a small balcony with Nkem, 2 mugs, and the kind of quiet that holds shape. Her phone buzzes. Musa. She answers. Wate is clear. 3 operators asked me if your boy is part of that man's circle. I told them no. They said good. No blacklists. Just clean lanes. Keep it that way. We are steady, Nkem replies. No noise. Good, Musa says. Tell him to keep working. Lagos is listening. Nedu nods at the air as she ends the call. It begins, he says. At Eko Hotel, a manager circles a calendar. The charity gala's seating chart has a hole where the Adenye table should be. He calls Chief's office to ask about final payments. Ife says, we're confirming. He hears the strain and writes hold on his sheet. In Ikoyi, Chief tries the bank. His relationship manager picks up on the second ring. Chief, good afternoon. I'm hearing strange things. Partners pausing. I need a statement of strength. The banker keeps his tone friendly. Your facilities are current. We stand by our clients. However, you know policy. When there is significant public scrutiny, compliance does a routine review. It's prudent. We'll be in touch. This is nonsense, Chief says. My numbers are clean. I believe you. That's why reviews end quickly. We'll speak soon. Tinny steps into the doorway, still in flats and a plain dress. No makeup, no audience. Daddy. Not now. Now, she answers. She holds her phone. It shows Harborview's statement on their website. 1 paragraph about values and partners who reflect them. This isn't about shoes. It's about respect. He turns the full weight of his gaze on her. Whose side are you on? On the side that doesn't make our name smaller. She says. For a moment, he sees the child who used to tug his sleeve in church to ask questions at the wrong time. He looks away. Ifet knocks again. Sir, there's also a message from Blue Line Media. They cannot carry our adverts this quarter. They say brand safety. He laughs without humor. Brand safety, he repeats, as if testing whether the words will choke him. On the small balcony, Nkem calls Bello back. You saw the clip? I did, he says. People forget where influence lives. A port, a barge schedule, a yard lease. These are not headlines. But the men who signed them have daughters too. They watch how a host treats a guest. They choose accordingly. We didn't call anyone, Kim says. We didn't need to, Bello answers. Lagos is a river. It remembers. It corrects. Nedin checks his notebook, flips to a page of deliveries due this week, taps a name. Keep the night shifts. Tide is kind. He texts. He pockets the phone and looks out at the city stitching itself to morning. Pause here, just long enough to see how consequences actually move. Last night was a spectacle. Glass, lights, the sound of easy laughter. This morning is paperwork and quiet decisions. A TV quote becomes a paragraph on a partner's website. A sponsor rethinks a table. A manager draws a circle around a hole on a seating chart. A banker says, "Review," in a tone that means, "Pay attention." None of it is loud. All of it counts. If you have ever learned the difference between a clap and a contract, you know this feeling. If you have ever watched a careless moment ripple into a month of calls, you know this room. Chief gathers himself, straightens a stack of folders that didn't need straightening. "We will issue a statement," he says to no one in particular. "We will remind them who we are." Funke touches his arm again. "Then start with kindness," she says. He doesn't answer. At dusk, the beverage brand posts a bright flyer for the gala with a new list of patrons. The comments are polite. The absence is louder than any mention. Fola watches from his phone and feels, for the first time all day, a thread of doubt. He starts to type a joke. He stops. He deletes the draft and pretends the internet is slow. Nkem sends one message to Musa: "No gloating, only work." He replies with a thumbs up and a prayer hands emoji he never uses. In Ikoyi, Chief stands at his window, looking towards a skyline that has applauded him for years. His phone lights again with an unfamiliar number. He doesn't pick this one either. He watches it ring itself tired. Across town, a container crane swings. In the gap between motion and rest, the city chooses its next step. This isn't anger. It's alignment. And alignment is already moving.
Under the Mile 2 floodlights, money looks like steel and sweat, not hashtags. Forklifts cough. Radios crackle. The lagoon lifts and lowers the night like breathing. Nedu walks the pier with a hard hat and a small torch. He greets crew by name. A deckhand points to a frayed mooring line. Nedu nods once. Change it. No shortcuts. The barge captain raises 2 fingers, tied on time. Nkem stands at the office door, head tied neat, clipboard in hand. She watches the rhythm the way a farmer watches rain. Inside the small site office, a humming fridge, a coil fan, a scarred table. On the table, a brown folder stamped in blue ink. Lekki Yard Early Lease. Paper that smells like dust and diesel. Survey plans with pencil notes. Receipts with thumbprints. Quiet proof of choices made when this shoreline was mostly scrub, goats, and stubborn hope. Nkem flips a page and smiles. "We signed this before the billboards," she says, "before the suits remembered this road." Outside, floodlights paint the water silver. Men in reflective vests guide a stack into place, with 2 fingers and whistle. A crane swings, pauses, settles. The radio pops. Clear lane. 30 minutes to push off. A younger hand asks Nedu, "Oga, will those people on TV affect us?" Nedu shakes his head. "Water does not read comments," he says. "It reads the wind, the moon, and whether you respected yesterday." The Mile 2 air tastes like diesel and salt. It is honest. You cannot fake a lift. You either moved the weight or you did not. When Apapa choked with trucks that slept on the road, the river took the load. Barges carried what trailers could not reach. That is not theory. That is cause and effect. When a port deepens, ships bring bigger bellies. When bigger ships come, you need more yard space, more hands, more light. When a refinery lights up down the coast, contractors hunt for staging ground. Whoever leased early holds quiet keys. Nedu walks the yard. A welder lifts his visor. "Night shift, sir." Nedu nods. "Bonus for the rain last week? Still on track." "Yes, Oga. Thank you." He checks the deck light, taps the casing, and tells a supervisor to replace it before dawn. He is not grand. He is precise. The small things deliver the big things. At the far fence, the lagoon breathes against old tires. Across the water lies the line of the Lekki corridor, dark except for a few distant cranes with red eyes. A picture forms without slogans. The free trade zone drew factories and yards. The new deep-sea port drew routes the old berths could not handle. The refinery drew contractors and paperwork and rush. The road still learns how to carry it all, so the river helps. People like Nkem and Nedu made room for that help before it was fashionable. Nkem joins him at the fence. "Remember when this was bush," she says, "and the surveyor got lost twice?" Nedu laughs. "And we use gadi bags to mark the corners?" She shakes her head. "They will call it luck. We will call it waking up early." A small boat sidles in with a late part. The pilot cuts the engine and drifts the last 12 feet. A rope flies, catches, holds. The barge captain checks his watch and the tide chart, nods to Nedu. 10 more and we push. Nedu thumbs a message. "Good. Keep it safe." Inside the office again, Nedu pulls out another envelope. Old photos. Him younger in a borrowed helmet, and Kem writing a receipt on her knee. Musa shaking hands with a yard foreman who looked like he could lift a truck. There is no soft focus. There is rain on a lens and a crooked smile. There is a calculator, a plastic chair, a stamp. A junior clerk points to the folder. "Sir, this lease. Will we tell them?" Nedu smiles. "When it is useful, not to win arguments, to keep work moving." The boy nods, not fully understanding, then files the papers under the humming fridge where ants never venture. Pause a moment and take stock. 2 nights ago, a ballroom tried to decide what matters. Labels, applause, and the smoothness of a toast. Yesterday, a studio debated standards, while people chose sides from couches and kiosks. Today, under floodlights that make no promises, the city shows its other truth. When trucks stall, water becomes a road. When the port grew deeper, small early leases became anchors. When pride got loud, the work stayed quiet and on time. If you have ever wondered where stability hides, it is here, in routine done well, in names remembered, in light replaced before it fails. Nkem pours tea from a flask and hands Nedu a cup. "Tomorrow will be noisy," she says. "Let them talk. We will show, not tell." He sips, lifts the cup in a small salute to the river, and sets it on the rail. A horn sounds long and low. Lines coil up. The barge eases free, nose turning to face the dark. Radios confirm positions, engines murmur. The night opens a narrow, patient door across the water. Nkem watches the wake spread, then fade, then become part of the lagoon again. She turns to Nedu. "Sleep. We start at first light." He nods, closes the office, and locks the drawer with the brown folder. The key is small, unremarkable, and very hard to copy. Tomorrow, one door opens. By lunch, politeness turns into policy. By evening, policy becomes a deadline. In Ikoyi, Chief Bayo steps into his office to find a neat stack of envelopes waiting like small storms. On top, a letterhead he recognizes and respects. Subject: Bridge Facility 22-041, Interim Review and Temporary Suspension of Drawdowns. He reads slowly. In light of significant public attention, our compliance team is initiating a routine reputation review. Pending completion, all further drawdowns are paused. Kindly provide updated financials, current partner roster, and a brief statement on values alignment within 5 business days. He looks up. The room hasn't changed, but something inside it has. He presses the intercom. "Ife." She appears with a tablet. "Yes, sir." "Get me Segon at First Capital. Now." They answer on the second ring. Chief, Verboinker says, friendly yet firm. This is a box-ticking exercise. We'll move quickly. You paused my drawdown. Correct. Routine when there's public scrutiny. Send the documents. If you have a statement, send that too. I don't answer to hashtags, Chief says. You answer to timelines, the banker replies. Close of business Friday for the first package. Thank you. The line clicks. A date prints itself in Chief's mind like a stamp. Friday, 5 p.m. Across the island, a supplier's email lands before the coffee cools. Subject: switch to cash terms, effective immediately. Dear Chief, due to internal policy triggered by press coverage, all pending deliveries will require 50% deposit before dispatch and balance on arrival. Outstanding invoices, 58,400,000 naira. Kindly settle 20 million naira today to keep your slot. Chief rubs his temples. Call the plant, he says to Ife. They've already called twice, she answers. They're holding trucks. At the polo club, whispers move like a breeze. A committee member who once waved him to the best table now checks his watch instead of raising a hand. A friend jokes about teachable moments, then laughs too loudly. Chief feels it, the social temperature drop that doesn't announce itself. It simply refuses to warm your hands. At Blue Wave PR, a consultant sends a memo he does not like. Recommendation: acknowledge harm. Apologize without defensiveness. Outline 3 concrete steps that show respect beyond words. Avoid blaming perception or misinterpretation. He forwards it to Funke with one line: "We are not doing this." She replies, "Then what are we doing?" In Yaba, Tenny sits at her small desk, laptop open, phone face down. A friend has texted an invitation to brunch to get your mind off things. She declines. Instead, she replays Kemi's interview, pausing on her father's line about cheap shoes are a choice. Her jaw tightens. She opens her messages to Nedu, types, deletes, types again. I'm sorry for last night, for the room, for the noise. I see you. She doesn't hit send yet. She looks out the window at a street where a boy chases a ball and a woman rinses a pot under a tap that works in fits. She thinks about levels. She thinks about kindness. Neju is at the yard. He signs a delivery, checks a light, answers a captain's question with a nod. His phone buzzes with a number he doesn't know. A reporter. He declines. Another buzz. A shipper. We prefer discretion. Can you move 40 containers to the FTZ by Wednesday? Quietly? He says yes, gives a rate that is fair, and tells a supervisor to schedule night crews with extra tea. Back in Ikoi, the cascade thickens. Harborview's lawyer sends a polite follow-up. To avoid penalties, please confirm site remains secure. We request a joint statement next week subject to our approvals. Another partner, a boutique fund, writes, "We support inclusive growth. We are monitoring." Monitoring is another word for wait and see. Fola texts Chief a meme that made him laugh yesterday. Today, Chief does not respond. He calls a fixer who always says yes. The fixer answers, "Chief, I'm hearing things." "Everyone hears things," Chief says. "Make them hear something else." "Not wise to push back now," the fixer says. "Say something decent. Buy time." "I don't buy time. I buy outcomes." "Then you know time is the price," the fixer replies. At lunch,
Funke brings jollof and grilled fish to the office table. Eat, she says. He picks at the food. They will come around, he says, then says it again, softer. They will come around. Ife steps in. Sir, the charity gala called. They need the final transfer by today to hold any seat, even a smaller one. He stares at the floor. Tell them we're reconsidering attendance. Sir, they already posted the seating. They wrote TBD over our table. He waves her away, then calls her back. Ife, get me the bank again. She dials, voicemail. She tries the assistant. Out of office for a compliance meeting. She leaves a message anyway. Afternoon slides into a gray evening. The sky threatens rain, then changes its mind. The city moves like it always does. Dawnfall swarming, couriers weaving, the lagoon carrying secrets and cargo under 1,000 small lights.
Let's gather the thread before it tingles. Yesterday was studio light in quotes. Today is the quiet math of reputation. A bank that smiled for years pauses a drawdown and asks for papers by Friday. A supplier who once sent trucks on credit now asks for a deposit before wheels roll. A club that loved your stories loves distance more. A PR memo says apologize, and pride says never. Meanwhile, at a yard by the water, work stays on time because engines don't care about trending clips. If you've ever wondered why some storms feel louder than they are, it's because the real weather happens in email subject lines and calendar holds. And if you've ever been on the wrong side of a quiet decision, you know why deadlines feel like doors. At 4:02 p.m., Chief's phone lights with the bank at last. He snatches it up. Segun. Chief, the banker says, gentle. We've reviewed the situation. 2 housekeeping items. 1, the interim review stands. 2, your bridge facility matures in 60 days. If the review flags risk, policy requires either additional collateral or early partial repayment. How much? Chief asks, voice flat. 200 million naira to reduce exposure, the banker says, or pledge a clean asset. We'll send a formal letter. We are not hostile. We are following the book. What is the deadline? Initial documents by Friday, 5 p.m. Collateral plan by next Wednesday, close of business. Chief stares at the city through the glass. Understood, he says. We value the relationship, the banker adds. Make it easier for us to defend you in the room. The call ends. The letter arrives 5 minutes later. Neat, official, impossible to argue with. Funke reads it and closes her eyes. Tenny finally sends her message to Nedu and turns off her phone. Full of drafts and apology post, deletes it, and posts a gem selfie instead. It fools no one. Night comes in layers. In the yard, a barge horn sounds. In the club, laughter thins. In the office, Chief folds the ladder along the crease, as if that could fold the problem. Friday, 5 p.m. Wednesday, close of business. 2 clocks start ticking on a wall that suddenly looks bare. And while the hands begin to move, another email slides into his inbox from a partner he was sure would never blink. The subject line is short, almost kind. We need to talk. Tonight. The call she answers is not from the man she hurt. It's from the part of herself that refuses to stay quiet. Tenny stands in the hallway of the Eko house, shoes in her hand, hair pinned back without ceremony. The marble is cold. The mirrors are kind. Her mother's voice floats from the sitting room. Stay, let it pass. Tenny shakes her head. It won't pass if we make it a habit. Funke steps into the doorway, silk wrapper soft as a sigh. Your father is tense. Say less today. Tenny kisses her cheek. I have said less my whole life. It didn't protect anyone last night. She places her house keys on the console like she's setting down a decision. I'm going out. Outside, the air smells like rain that changed its mind. Drivers doze behind the wheel. A lizard freezes on warm stone, then darts. Tenny orders a ride and types a message to Nedu. Can we meet? Somewhere without chandeliers. He replies in 2 words, Freedom Park. The driver drops her by the old colonial walls, where trees throw kind shadows. The city hums beyond the gates, Dalfos bargaining with traffic, generators arguing with silence. At a corner bench near the fountain, Nedu waits in a clean, unbranded tea, the same calm that irritated strangers on TV because they mistook it for weakness. Tenny sits. She does not waste time. I'm sorry, she says, for my silence, for not taking the mic, for letting my father think I would co-sign his pride. She meets his eyes. I chose you. Then I acted like I was choosing a room. I won't do that again. Nedu watches her words land between them like small stones building a path. Thank you, he says. It matters that you say it here, not where applause can borrow it. I wanted to defend you, she says. I froze. He has always owned the microphone. I thought I could change the angle of his voice by smiling. You tried, he says. That is not nothing. He looks down at his hands, then back at her. I don't need you to fight anyone for me. I need you to choose who you are when the room gets loud. She nods. Then hear me. I choose you. Not the seating chart, not the crest on the wall. If we need to redo everything small and simple, we will. A breeze shakes the leaves. Somewhere, a drummer tests a rhythm on a plastic chair. 2 kids race by giggling, one slipper abandoned and reclaimed without drama. I grew up making space for other people's pride. I know how to keep peace. I don't always know how to keep myself. Nedu smiles with the part of his face that knows hard things. Keeping yourself is the only way we will keep us. She laughs once, a short, surprised sound. You talk like an elder. And Aunt Enkem will be offended. She earned that title. The joke unclenches something in her chest. She studies him. You never defend yourself with big stories. You could have told the room 100 things to make them swallow their words. You didn't. I learned early that showing is safer than telling. Noise brings heat. Heat brings eyes you don't need. Work brings quiet. Quiet brings safety. Show me, she says. He shakes his head, not to prove anything to your father, not to win a comment section. Show me for me, so I can anchor my choice in what is true, not in what I hope. He considers this, nods. Tomorrow morning, mile 2. Wear flats. Bring patience. Leave your phone in your bag until we're done. She breathes out. Okay. They sit without words for a while. A security guard pretends not to watch them and succeeds. The fountain finds a rhythm. The park remembers when it was a prison and forgives a little every day. People choose to gather there with soft voices and open hands. My father will ask me to hold the line, Tenny says. Hold a different line, the one you drew when you stood up last night. He'll say I'm embarrassing him. Then you'll learn you're not responsible for how he handles his reflection, he says. Kind, but clear. She rubs her palms together, a small, nervous habit. We may lose friends. You will keep the ones who deserve your future, he says. She smiles at that. And the wedding? She asks, bracing. He lets the question sit. Maybe the ballroom is not our story. Maybe our introduction is shorter, truer, and paid for with respect, not spectacle. Tenny exhales something like relief. I'm not mourning the flowers.
I'm mourning the idea that I could make my father gentle by being smaller. Be exact, he says. Gentle and exact. It's the only way to live with Lagos. Her phone buzzes. She doesn't check it. He notices and nods, approving. A hawker passes with cold drinks. Nedu buys two and hands her one. The first sip is too sweet. The second tastes like a promise to drink water later. I need to tell you one more thing, Tenny says. If I cut from my parents' funds, I cut. I won't bring their strings into our rooms. Nedu's answer is immediate. Then we'll live on what we earn and sleep like people who don't owe anyone their smile. A lull settles, warm and right. If you've ever had to pick your heart over your household, you know this bench. If you've ever learned that silence is a form of consent, you know this feeling crawling your spine and then leaving you lighter when you finally speak. If you've ever wanted a partner who doesn't need you to fight their battles, only to stand beside them when the room tests both of you, you recognize this kind of quiet. Let's gather what the day has put on the table. A studio turned pride into a quote. A bank turned that quote into deadlines with numbers attached. A sponsor turned a table into a hole on a seating chart. Somewhere between those lines, Tenny turned silence into speech and stepped out of a house where mirrors have always been more generous than the truth. Sitting on a public bench, she chose the person over the performance. Nedu didn't sell her a legend, he offered a morning. Tomorrow, at mile 2, where engines, water, and timing do not accept flattery, she will see the work that has no hashtags. This is not a counterpunch. It is a tour of what was strong before the insult and will be strong after the noise fades. Tenny stands. Tomorrow, she says. Before sunrise, he says. Ask the driver to drop you by the mechanic's gate. I'll meet you. Don't wear white. She laughs. I never do. They walk to the park gate side by side, close but not holding hands, like two people who understand that promises made in public are cheap if they cannot survive the morning. At the curb, a downfall honks like a joke that never gets old. She climbs into her ride, he tops the roof twice, and steps back. As the car eases into traffic, Tenny checks her phone at last. A new message from her father sits at the top. It is 3 words. Come home. Now. She watches the message for a beat, then turns the screen face down and says to the driver, Mile 2. Tomorrow, very early. He gives her a look in the mirror that says, Are you sure? She nods. At first light, a guard at a quiet gate will lift a barrier, and Lagos will decide who gets to walk through.
By sunrise, the city will learn the man they mocked could idle their convoys without raising his voice. Tenny arrives at mile 2 before the sky decides on a color. The air is cool and damp, tasting of salt and diesel. A guard in a reflective vest opens a gate with a nod from Aunt Nkem. She's with us, Nkem says. Tenny steps inside, and the night opens onto a world that looks nothing like a ballroom. Forklifts blink, radios hiss. Men in vests guide steel with 2 fingers and a whistle. A barge hums like a sleeping animal. Nedu hands Tenny a hard hat. Flats were a good call, he says. She smiles. I listened. They walk along the pier. The wood is scarred and honest underfoot. Crew members greet Nedu by name. He knows theirs in return. He stops at a frayed line. Replace this before we push, he tells a supervisor. No speech, no performance, just a decision that keeps people safe. Tenny watches the grace of the work. It is not glamorous, it is precise. A deckhand radios, clear lane. A captain nods at the tide chart.
Another crewman laughs at a joke Tenny can't hear and then lifts a hook with the easy strength of someone who has done this 1,000 times without applause. She exhales. It feels like church with no pews. They enter a small office that hums with a coil fan and a fridge that doubles as a filing cabinet. Nkem places a brown folder on a scarred table. The cover is stamped in blue. Lekki Yard, early lease. She flips it open. Inside are survey maps with pencil lines, dates from years when this shoreline was scrum and stubborn hope, receipts with thumbprints, lease agreements stamped and renewed on time, photos of a younger Nedu in a borrowed helmet grinning beside a barge hand with a gap-toothed smile. We signed before the billboards, Nkem says, before the suits remembered this road. How much land? Tenny asks. 4 plots, just under 8 hectares, leased when nobody wanted them, Nkem answers. They looked like bush on the map. Now they look like a plan. Nedu slides another envelope across. It holds clean, simple pages from a lawyer's office. A company registered years ago. A share register with his name quiet but real. Signatures that match the calluses on the hands outside. I keep my name off the noise, he says, not off the work. He opens a second folder. This is the barge company. 3 boats now, 2 more on order. Each carries what 10 trailers do when roads are asleep. We got our permissions the slow way. Forms filed, inspections passed, no shortcuts. Tenny doesn't understand every term. She understands enough. Schedules, renewal stamps, safety logs, a list of regular routes to the Lekki Free Trade Zone and back. When a papa clogs, Nkem says, the river helps. We made room for that help before it was fashionable. They step back outside. The sky is choosing blue. Across the water, the Lekki corridor lifts its cranes like tall birds. We'll drive there, Nedu says. I want you to see the gates. The car hums onto the expressway as the city wakes. Hawkers float between lanes with bread and water. Billboards trade promises with tired eyes. They pass the Dangote site, so wide it eats the horizon. Tenny stares. I've only seen this from glossy decks, she says. It looks different when you can smell it. At the Free Trade Zone gate, security waves them to a visitor lane. Nedu doesn't push. He hands over IDs. The guard checks, returns them, tips his chin in respect. Morning, he says. They roll through. From a small overlook, Tenny sees the deep water port awake. Gantry cranes glide, containers stack, a ship's steel side rises like a wall. Men in uniforms move like a rehearsed line. When they cut that ribbon, Nkem says, the price of every early mistake doubled. So did the value of every early mercy. What do you mean? Tenny asks. The men we paid, on time, when it rained. The night crew we fed when fuel ran short. The contractor we didn't squeeze on a bad month. They remember, Nkem says. In this city, memory moves cargo. They stop by a modest office in Victoria Island next. A brass plaque at the door reads Adekunle and Partners. Inside, books line a wall that smells like paper and air conditioning. A partner greets them. Good morning, Miss Adeni. Mr. Okafor. He places a red file on the conference table. As requested, here are certified copies, the SPV that holds the leases, the share register, the board minutes that authorized the barge purchases, the renewal receipts. We notarized everything for your records. He turns to Tenny. He asked me to show you because he does not want to win arguments. He wants you to have peace.
She scans the pages. They aren't flashy. They are complete. Is this why you never corrected anyone? She asks Nedu. He nods. If I go loud, I invite eyes I don't need, and I make the walk vulnerable to men who prefer rooms to rivers. The lawyer slides one last envelope across. This is sensitive, he says. You do not need to read it now. Tenny looks at Nedu. He nods. She opens it anyway. Inside is a brief letter from a different firm, dated last year. It confirms a small settlement paid into an account when a payments company sold to a larger one. No numbers on the page, just a line about minority shareholder and NDA honored. Nedu shrugs. A friend lets me in early. When it exited, I paid debts and expanded the yard. No press, just work. The lawyer's phone buzzes. He silences it. One more thing, he says. You should know, producers called this morning asking if we represent Mr. Okafor. I did not confirm, but the room is sniffing. Outside, Nkem's phone rings. Bello, she says, putting it on speaker. His voice is warm gravel. I saw a clip, not of the ballroom, of the yard at dawn. The right people are watching. If the chief has sense, he will come with his hat in his hand. If he doesn't, Lagos will teach him the slower way. We are not hunting him, Nkem says. I know. That is why this will end well if it ends at all. Pause here and hold what this morning revealed without turning it into a poster. A night of insults walked into dawn and found a ledger. 4 early leases near a port that changed the map. A barge operation that moves quietly while roads argue with themselves. Papers stamped when nobody was watching. A modest office where a partner confirms what's real without selling headlines. A small exit folded back into work and wages. Last night, a father quoted standards while a room applauded labels. Today, a woman stood in steel and salt air and saw the kind of standards that don't need a stage. If you've ever wanted proof that noise is not the same as substance, this is your view. They leave the office. The sun climbs. Lagos leans into day. Nedu walks Tenny to the car. What do you need from me? He asks. Only this, she says, that we keep choosing the quiet things, even when the loud ones flirt. She hesitates, and that we don't hide forever, not from truth, from spectacle. He smiles. Agreed. As they pull away, a compact hatchback slides into a space across the street. 2 people sit inside with a camera on the back seat. Kemi's producer checks a phone, whispers, they're moving. The driver nods. We'll trail. No shots without her consent. Back at mile 2, a horn sounds long and low. A barge noses into the channel, engines polite, purpose loud. In Ikoyi, a man who slept badly pours coffee he doesn't drink. His phone vibrates. Funke reads the screen and brings it to him without a word. The name makes him blink. Aunt Nkem. He answers. She doesn't waste time. Chief, she says. Voice even. We should talk, not on TV, around a table, today. There is a pause long enough to hear a bird through glass. Where? He asks. Come to the yard, she says. Wear shoes you don't mind getting dirty. The line clicks. The city holds its breath for the first time all week. And at the end of the pier, as the wake braids itself back into the lagoon, Kemi's producer sends a message to her host. If they meet at the water, we might witness the only apology Lagos will believe. He arrives in polished shoes and leaves with dust on them and a new definition of respect. The gate at mile 2 creaks open. Chief Bayo and Funke step onto the pier without an entourage. The air smells like diesel and salt. Forklifts move like patient animals under floodlights. And Kim meets them halfway, head tie neat, eyes steady. Nadu stands beside her, hard hat in hand. He nods once, not as a challenge, but as welcome to a place that does not bend for applause. "Thank you for coming," Kim says. "We'll talk in the office. Then you will see the work. After that, we decide how to make things right." Chief's jaw is set. "If this is a public spectacle, I won't perform." "It isn't," Kim answers. "No cameras, only people, the ones you forgot last night." Inside the small office, a coil fan hums. Plastic chairs scrape the floor. On the table, water in sachets, a brown folder, a short printed document. Funke folds her hands in her lap. Chief remains standing until the silence convinces him to sit. Inkem begins. "This city can forgive pride. It does not forget disrespect. We are not here to ruin you. We are here to repair what you broke. Repair has terms." He exhales through his nose. "Say them." "First," Enkem says, "you will apologize. Not on television. Here. To the workers who keep this water honest. You will come tomorrow at noon. You will stand on the pier and say one sentence clearly. I was wrong to mock a guest and the people who serve this city. I am sorry. No hedging." He bristles. "You want to humiliate me." "No," she says. "We want you to meet your words with your feet on real ground." She lifts a finger. "Second, a scholarship fund for dock workers' children. Books, fees, uniforms. 20 children renewed each year. Independent trustees. A teacher, a union elder, a community nurse. Money moves, names don't. You will seat it, and you will not put your face on it." Funke looks at Chief. His eyes flick, calculating. "How much?" "Enough to keep the promise for 5 years, Enkem says. "Your accountant can show the math by Monday." "Third," Nadu says quietly, speaking for the first time, "your sites will post fair pay on the gate and pay on time. Break rooms with shade and water. A number to call if it slips. Not for show, for dignity." Chief's mouth tightens. "You want to run my company." "No," Nadu says. "We want your company to stop running over people." "Fourth," Nkem continues, "you will sit in this office without an audience and tell this man, the one you mocked on his wedding night, that you are sorry." Silence sits with them. The fan turns, the fridge hums. Outside, a horn sounds long and low. Chief leans back, eyes on the ceiling like he could find a better answer there. "And if I refuse?" "Then refuse," Inkem says, "and carry it. This city already decided to watch. We did not make those calls. Your behavior did. We offer a way through." Nadu places the printed document in front of him. "Read it. It's a simple memorandum, no traps." Funke takes it first. She reads. Her shoulders soften. She passes it to her husband. He scans the lines. No legal jungle, no performance. Just the plan to put weight where the harm landed. "This is punishment," he says. But his voice is less certain. "It's repair," Enkem says. "Punishment centers you. Repair centers the people who felt the harm." "Why should I do this here?" he asks. "Why not in a boardroom with AC and lawyers?" "Because the harm was loud in a bright room. Let the repair be quiet in the place you forgot existed." Tenny steps in from the doorway. She has been listening, hands clasped, gaze fixed on the table. "Daddy," she says, voice soft, "please." He looks at her,
then at Nadu. Did you bring me here to watch me bow? Nadu shakes his head. I brought you here to choose who you are when no one is clapping. Inkim stands. Walk, she says. Then decide. They step onto the pier. A deckhand nods, surprised to see a man from television in this light. A supervisor briefs a crew in short, exact sentences. The tide lifts and lowers the world by inches. Chief's shoes collect dust at the edges. Funke holds her wrapper away from a puddle and smiles at a young woman in a reflective vest. The woman smiles back, shy and proud.
A man with a scar across his knuckles adjusts a line. Chief watches his hands. How long have you done this? He asks. 10 years, the man says. Sir. Do they pay you on time? Chief asks, before he can stop himself. Here, yes, the man answers. Not everywhere. Chief looks at Nedu, then away. Back in the office, Inkem places a pen beside the memorandum. No pressure, she says. Only truth. Chief stares at the page. He does not pick up the pen. He looks at Nedu. You could have buried me, he says quietly. Why this? Because I want my city to be kinder than its headlines, Nedu says. And because I would like to sleep. Funke's voice breaks the air. Bayo, she says. We have grandchildren to meet one day. Let them meet a gentler name. He picks up the pen. His hand does not shake, but it doesn't rush either. He signs. He exhales like a tire finding the right pressure. Tomorrow at noon, Inkem says. On the pier, 4 sentences. Then the fund papers by Monday. He nods once. I will be here. A pause settles, then lifts. Nedu turns to him. The other apology, he says softly. Chief's face tightens. He swallows pride like a hard pill. He looks Nedu in the eye. I was wrong, he says. I am sorry. Nedu nods. Thank you. Let's take a breath and hold the shape of what just happened. A man trained to live by rooms and applause walked into a yard where work does not flatter and learned a different grammar. I was wrong. I am sorry. He agreed to show up where it counts, say the words where they matter, and put money in the places his pride bruised. It is not a headline. It is a hinge. You know this hinge if you've ever sat across a table with your throat tight and your temper loud and chosen repair over a clever speech. It doesn't trend. It changes things. They stand. Inkem shakes his hand. Funke hugs her daughter, relieved and rattled. Outside, the light has shifted from hard to kind. The forklift rests. The water keeps its promises. Before they leave, Chief asks one more question. If I do this, will the city forgive? The city will watch, Inkim says. Forgiveness comes after the work. He nods once. He glances at the pier, then back at the paper in his hand. Tomorrow at noon, he will stand on wood that doesn't care about his title and speak into air that carries only truth. He can still flinch. He can still fail. Lagos is listening. No chandeliers, no LED wall. Just a wooden gate, a knock, and 2 families deciding how to start again. By noon, he kept his promise at the pier. No cameras, no speeches. Only a man saying, I was wrong, to the people who lift the city by hand. By evening, Tenny asked for something small and true. Not a reception, an introduction. The old way, without the noise. They choose a church courtyard in Yaba, under almond trees. A low canopy casts soft shade. Benches form a rough square. Talking drums breathe, not to impress, but to keep time with the smiles. Aunties lay out modest trays. Cola nuts, yams, honey, salt, palm oil, a bottle of schnapps. Gifts that say, "We came in peace. We intend sweetness. We will season our words. We remember who fed our parents." Two women guide the gathering, one from each family. No titles, just aunties who know how to bless and tease. They lead the knock, that simple moment when the groom's people ask to enter a home and the bride's people decide how to answer. Nedu bows, not for show, but because respect keeps doors open. His friends kneel with him, laughing at their own wobbling knees. Tenny covers her mouth, delighted. The laughter is kind this time. It lands softly and stays. Chief Bayo sits 2 rows back, not at the front. His shoes carry dust from the pier. Funke's wrapper is bright but simple. No convoy outside. No florist rushes in late. Fulla arrives in a plain shirt, phone in his pocket. Tenny met him at the gate and asked him gently to be present with his eyes, not his lens. He said yes. An auntie sings Tenny's name into a short ordiki, reminding her of the women she comes from, patient with fire, careful with power. Another auntie places Tenny's hand in the dews and tells a short story about water choosing the quietest path and arriving all the same. The crowd chuckles. Someone wipes a tear with a corner of lace. The prayers are brief. The speeches are shorter. Nkem speaks for 1 minute, exactly. "We are grateful," she says. "Let us all greet the people who wash the plates and sweep the floor before we greet ourselves." She smiles and sits. Chief rises, clears his throat, and keeps his promise to stay small. "Thank you for receiving us," he says. "I will not take your kindness for granted." No performance, just a sentence that fits in his mouth and his life. Tenny and Nadu exchange simple beads and a small Bible from the church secretary's desk. No diamond theatrics, just a promise to look in the same direction. A tray circles with puff puff and bottled water. The drummer leans into a gentle rhythm that makes feet move without thinking about it. Elders clap. Children chase each other around a bench and return with dust on their ankles and a piece of puff-puff like treasure. Between the moments, Tenny does the quiet work she promised herself. She takes her mother's hand and says, "Mommy, we will love you and visit you. We won't borrow your voice for our home." Funke nods, a little hurt passing quickly behind her eyes and then leaving something calmer. "Bring me grandchildren to spoil," she whispers. "I will spoil them with books." Tenny turns to her father. "Daddy, I need to say it clearly. I love you. I won't let your name decide our choices. You will always be my father. You won't be our microphone." He swallows pride in 2 kinds of love. "I heard you," he says. "May I be welcome when I come gently. Always," she says. Nedu takes a quiet moment with Fola near the cooler of water. "You have influence," he says. "Use it to make rooms kinder. Your jokes are sharp. Point them at the right things." Fola nods, embarrassed and relieved to be forgiven without being flattered. "I will try," he says. "And I'll bring crates to the pier next week for the staff room." "Good," Nedu answers. "Bring humility too." There is no MC cueing applause. There is no sponsor logo on a step and repeat. There is a plate of jollof that runs out and is refilled from a pot that was made with love, not a contract. There is a pastor who blesses in 3 sentences and sits. There is a kiss that is brief because the aunties are watching and will make a joke if it lingers. There is dancing anyway, on dust and flats. Let's hold this picture before we release it. A week ago, a home made of glass turned love into a ranking. A studio light turned pride into a quote. A bank turned that quote into deadlines with numbers attached. A peer turned apology into footsteps and a sentence. Tonight, a courtyard turned 2 families into neighbors again. If you've ever learned that the best parts of a wedding are the ones that don't fit on a highlight reel, you know this feeling. If you've ever realized that respect costs less and buys more than spectacle, you're already nodding. If you've ever set a boundary with someone you love and watched love survive it, you understand why this small ceremony feels like a victory bigger than a ballroom. As dusk leans in, Nkem stands and thanks the aunties, the drummers, the church caretaker who lent extra benches. She announces the scholarship trustees with quiet pride. A teacher from the local school, a nurse from the clinic, a union elder with hands like bark. Funke whispers to the nurse, "If any child needs glasses, call me." The nurse smiles, surprised and pleased. Chief checks his phone once and then pockets it again. A new message sits there from the bank. Meeting confirmed, Friday, 3 p.m. He looks at Tenny and decides not to mention it, not yet. He will have to prove to a room with cold air that repair is not performance. He will bring receipts that smell like the pier. The drums slow. The gifts are divided. The last kola nut splits clean. Tenny leans her head on Nedu's shoulder and watches the light turn the courtyard gold. Somewhere beyond the walls, Lagos keeps moving. Horns, engines, bargains, prayers. Inside the walls, a new home starts with small promises and the sound of names spoken kindly. And just as the canopy lights flick on, a car pulls up outside the gate and idles. A familiar studio voice leaves a message that will not wait forever. "I hear you chose the quiet way. If you ever want the city to hear what you built, on your terms, call me." The night holds its breath. The next choice will decide how far this piece can travel. Lagos forgives with receipts, not speeches. By dusk, the city counts what changed and who did the changing. Sun leans low over the lagoon, turning cranes into silhouettes and barges into slow-moving shadows. Workers at Mile 2 clock out with tired grins and dust on their boots. A foreman tapes a paper to a notice board. Scholarship sign-up opens Monday at the clinic. Bring your child's report card. A young deckhand snaps a photo, not for the internet, but to show his mother. On the pier, Aunt Kim closes the office window, checks the small lock twice, and pockets the key that never leaves her until morning. Across town in Yaba, Tenny and Nedu stand on a small balcony that faces a jumble of rooftops and one stubborn palm. 2 enamel mugs sweat on the rail. A generator hum becomes background music. "No chandeliers," she says, smiling. "Only stars." He points at the sky. Better light, better price. They talk about small things that mean bigger things. Where to put a table that seats 4 but welcomes 6. How to keep 1 day a week off-grid and off-phone. Which auntie makes the best jollof and how to steal her recipe without starting a diplomatic incident. Inside, a short list sits on the counter in Nedu's careful handwriting. Rent, utilities, wedding redo balance, first seed for the scholarship fund if trustees need a bridge. He moves a pencil down the page and draws a tidy check beside each item, as if making room in the margin for calm. Tenny reads and adds one more line. Visit the workers' lounge with crates and a fan, courtesy of Fola. She underlines it twice. Let him keep a promise early, she says. Habits begin on day 1. Nedu nods.
In Ikoyi, Chief Bayo sits at a dining table without plates and in a suit without an audience. His shoes are clean but not shiny. Dust from the pier clings to the stitching and refuses to let go, as if memory decided to write home. He reads the memorandum again. Apology done. Fund seated tomorrow morning. Trustees appointed. Site notices ready. Pay on time schedule posted. Funke brings him a simple dinner and a softer tone. You did well today, she says. He doesn't answer. He is practicing something he has not practiced in years, walking into a cold room with warm proof. The bank meeting is set for Friday at 3. He gathers documents that smell like paper and work, a deposit slip, a stamped trustee letter from the clinic, a photo of the notice board at the pier. If they ask for words, he will have them. If they ask for proof, he will have that too. In a small VI office, Kemi reviews footage she did not use. The ballroom clip with its cheap laugh, the studio line about cheap shoes, the still image of Tenny holding a microphone that did not reach her hand. She closes the window and opens a new file named Quiet Lagos. Some stories don't need a shout. They need a steady light. Her producer nods. When they're ready, we'll make a piece about repair, not scandal. For once, the red tally light can wait. At the church courtyard, the aunties wash borrowed plates and wave away thanks with a flick of soapy fingers. The caretaker counts benches and nods to himself like a man who just witnessed an argument end before it began. A child in dusty sandals twirls her new bead bracelet in the last of the light. It fits, she says to no one in particular. It fits perfectly.
Fola, back home, types and retypes a message he wishes were clever and decides to be honest instead. I was unkind. I'm learning. If you see me at the pier next week, pretend you don't. I'll be carrying crates and minding my business. He posts, puts his phone face down and goes to the corner shop for cold water. The shopkeeper hands him the bottles with a look that's more amused than impressed. It's the right look. He breathes easier. Anson Kim sits at her kitchen table with the ledger open and glasses low on her nose. She lists the trustees' names, Aisha from the clinic, Mr. Okon the teacher, Elder Jonah from the union, and writes, first meeting Tuesday, 10 a.m., under the almond tree. She adds a note, no photos, only receipts. She pours tea, leans back, and allows herself one smile that doesn't need an audience. Respect travels farther than convoys, she whispers, almost to the kettle. Pause here and take stock with the kind of summary that lets the day exhale. A week ago, a hall of glass turned love into a ranking and a father into a quote. The city clapped, argued, and took sides as if all of Lagos fit inside a trending clip. Then quiet people moved. A yard at mile 2 showed work that doesn't read comments. Leases signed when the map was still green. Barges loaded by hands that never make the news. Schedules kept because someone checked the tide before the speech. A bank turned pride into deadlines, and a pen turned repair into a promise. A pier heard I was wrong, and a courtyard heard thank you without a microphone. Tonight, people sleep with softer shoulders because accountability chose the long way. On the balcony, Tenny rests her head against Nedu's shoulder. What do we do with Kemi's message? She asks. He considers. We answer when we have something to teach, not something to defend, he says. Maybe after the first students buy uniforms with the fund. Tenny's smile reaches her eyes. Let the story be the children, not us. She says. Not us, he nods. Funky texts Tenny. Nurse Ayesha says 2 children need glasses. I will handle. Tenny sends a heart and thinks.
Chief types and deletes a dozen replies to no one in particular, then sends one to his banker. Kindly confirm receipts of the fund deposit. I'll bring the trustees' letters Friday. The banker replies in 10 minutes flat. Received. Thank you. See you at 3 p.m. The lagoon exhales. The city flicks on its lights. Somewhere a generator coughs and catches. Somewhere else, a boy finishes homework by a window because a nurse told his mother where to sign up on Monday. In a dozen small ways, the night tilts toward better. A breeze brings the smell of rain that may or may not arrive. Nettie reaches for the mugs and carries them inside. Tenny lingers a second longer under the spy. I thought I wanted a big story, she says to the dark. Turns out I wanted a true one. The palm tree does not answer. It doesn't need to. If you're listening with your whole chest, you know what this asks of you tomorrow. Greet the doorman by name. Pay the invoice on the day you promised. Choose a smaller room if the big one demands your kindness at the door. Call your father and set a boundary that lets love breathe. When the city tests you with a stage, answer it with work. Lagos remembers both, but it rewards one. Inside, the phone on the counter blinks quietly. Kemi's message waits, patient. The meeting at the bank is 20 hours away. A file sits on Chief's desk with more proof than pride. The tide chart pinned to the pier wall says on time in pencil and in practice. A rumble of thunder grins at the edge of the city and changes its mind. The night holds steady. On the balcony, the last of the heat lifts and leaves. And down on the water, a captain checks his watch, taps the tide chart, and smiles. Tomorrow at 3, a room will decide whether repair can travel as far as a rumor. The tide will be ready. Will the room?